This is Mick Foley.
This is Harley Race.
This is Shelton Benjamin.
This is Mr. Wonderful Paul Orndorff.
This is the Monster Abyss.
And this is Daniel Bryan.
This is JBL, and you're watching the MWF.
Be there, live.
Wrestling fans around the corner, around the world, welcome to another bonus edition of Wrestling Insider's Current Events, where we go podcast style reviewing the latest and sometimes greatest episodes of professional wrestling in 2020. We are here at MWF Studios, downtown Melrose, Massachusetts, in the zip code of Champions 02176, after yet another boring, uneventful, and interesting Monday Night Raw. Can AEW and NXT spark our interest in the king of sports yet again? I have no idea. As I wrote this introduction prior to watching the October 7th, 2020 editions of AEW Dynamite and WWE NXT, I was busy slaving away here at the studio for great productions for your enjoyment. Then we had a chance to enjoy the 40th anniversary showing of the original Friday the 13th film with Cecil the Lion and one of the hottest up-and-coming stand-up comics in the country. The Revere, Massachusetts Showcase Cinema has been my unofficial movie home going back to the 80s, and news broke yesterday that it's being sold to Amazon to turn into some kind of a warehouse, so the end is near for one of my favorite places, Showcase Cinema in Revere, Massachusetts. After that, I watched the woman who stole James Harris's gimmick, that being Kamala Harris, and Mike Pence go tit for tat. I think the big high spot of the night, and did you watch the debate, Prodigy?
Yes, I did.
I think the biggest high spot of the night was the fly that landed on Mike Pence's head.
He did the run-in.
He did the fly-in, but we'll see.
Yeah.
And then at 1:02 a.m., as I typed this introduction up, I prepared for AEW Dynamite. And if there's one thing I'm going to need just a little of to get through of 4 hours of professional wrestling at 1:02 a.m., it is certainly a little Boost Oxygen. It's been making me feel not like $1 million, but $1,001,001. You can get yours at fine retailers everywhere, as well as BoostOxygen.com. We welcome now the only person I know to ever describe themselves as hailing from southwestern Connecticut, a man that knows socks like Lanny Poffo knows himself, the prodigy, Mr. Matt Degnan. Matt, welcome.
What did you think of the debate last night?
I watched it. I enjoyed it. I took it, as I usually do, that the majority of the political things we see on television are no different than pro wrestling. It's almost like pro wrestling for adults. Those that don't want to chant Hogan, they want to chant Biden. They don't want to boo Roman Reigns, they want to boo Donald Trump. That's what I before the show, I'm sure Kamala and Mike Pence maybe had a beverage, maybe an adult beverage for all we know afterwards. Maybe they got together at the hotel and went over some spots together for the debate. Who knows? But that's the way I look at most politics. At the end of the day, they do a little bit of shooting in their promos. Instead of selling tickets, they get donations for the campaigns. It's like a little pro wrestling for adults. The Mocs get into it. Instead of holding signs that say Austin 316, they're holding signs that say Trump Pence 2020. One man's opinion, please.
Did you think people were cheering Brian Cage after he defeated Will Hobbs to retain the FTR title to open AEW Dynamite?
Is that what we're going with first, is AEW?
AEW.
You're jumping right into it, just like the fly did on Mike Pence's head.
Flying right into it.
All right.
Well, as I just said, Brian Cage defeated Will Hobbs to retain this big FTR title. What is it? FTW?
FTW, that's right.
FTW. Well, I was thinking of FTR. The tag team. I like this match. It was a great matchup. Two big guys. Which you don't see of much in AEW. I just don't get why this title is being taken seriously at all. It's not a real title. Even Taz has said it before. It's not a legitimate title. So I don't get why it's taken seriously.
My turn?
I did the cliffhanger for you.
I didn't know if there was a long dramatic pause for more or what. All right, let me go through my notes. I actually had some notes before we even got to that match. But like you, My first point of contention was FTW World Championship ? Taz tried to explain what the title was on commentary. He said it wasn't recognized by any promotion, but then Justin Roberts introduced it as the FTW World Championship. So I think it needs a better explanation. As the match began, my thought continued to be, with 3 commentators already in the booth, why wasn't Taz managing his talent as opposed to being in what turned into a 5-man booth? When you had Ricky Starks of the Taz faction was also there wearing a shirt that looked like he took it out of The Rock's wardrobe in 1999. It fits his gimmick. But, 5 guys in one booth, they couldn't even fit around the table.
I've said this before. I don't like more than 2 men. I think a 2-man booth is good.
Mm-hmm.
I think I just don't really like the 5-man. And then
luckily it was only for the one match.
And then JR, he called Ricky Starks Ricky Skaggs.
No, I don't know if that was intentional or a mistake.
I don't know.
Maybe JR had a beverage. I don't know. Our good friend Jim Ross.
I don't know who Ricky Skaggs is, but I guess he's over with JR.
Well, slip of the tongue, I guess. But it was a good big man match, as you noted. Cage retained. After the match, Starks went to the ring. Taz got on the mic. He told Hobbs that he was impressed with him, and he gave him the chance to join Team Taz or get another beating from Cage and Starks. Before Hobbs could answer, you had Darby Allin's very depressing music hit, and out he came with his skateboard. And I'll say this, and I don't know why last night I thought so more than usual, but Taz is one of the best, most effective, believable promos in the business in 2020. He is great. Everything he says has credibility to it, and it is believable. Taz's promos are excellent. I love Taz as a commentator. I love Taz as a manager. I think everything he does is great.
I don't think they need to add anybody to Team Taz.
No, they're factioned out, and this is coming from a guy that absolutely loves factions. They
have they have way too many in AEW, but even still, they don't need to add anybody to that team. I think Starks and Cage are perfect together.
Yeah,
I believe Hobbs has a little Vicente Ray in him, if you know what I mean.
Well,
but.
Now, we'll see, the thing is, now after our discussion Saturday night about Vicente Ray, I don't know what you mean. There's different areas of Vicente Ray with a little extra.
Well, I think Hobbs had his ring gear on, so he couldn't see.
All right. We don't need to worry about that, please. This is a family program.
Oh, very family friendly. What did you think of the opening match overall? You think it was a good opener?
I thought it was a good big man match. I don't know if I was booking the show, if I would have put that as the opener, just for the reason that I think maybe you could have got a little more sizzle with it later in the show. One man's opinion. I thought it was a good match. It was a good effort. And like I said, the promo by Taz was excellent. It was good that you got Ricky Starks on television, as he's part of that faction, even though he didn't have a match this week. Overall, I thought it was a very good segment. And I know go ahead.
I think if they weren't going head-to-head with NXT, because sometimes both of these companies have to put a big match out, in the first segment to kind of get the viewers over to their side first. So I believe if they weren't really going head-to-head with NXT, you wouldn't see a match this.
Right.
Starting off.
But I'll say this, both shows I thought had great openers, and I thought both shows had main events that absolutely sucked, but we'll get there as these reviews go on. I did want to note before you jump to the next match, Prodigy, I absolutely loved the video package that opened the show, where you had so many of the younger AEW talents putting over Chris Jericho in his now 30-year body of work, working as good as he ever has in the squared circle. They were a little limited as far as the footage that they could use, where he's only been in AEW for a year, and WWE owns most of his career. I may have mentioned this on one of the other shows, but I remember being at Madison Square Garden for the live WWE Network special in October 2015 on the date of his 25th anniversary. I believe he worked Neville, and he flew in several of his friends that he broke into the business with to be there in the front row. I remember that Don Callis was one of them. Lance Storm might have been one of them. Betty Skolland was sitting with them, even though she had nothing to do with Chris Jericho breaking into the business. Betty Skolland being the wife of the late, great Arnie Skolland. But his tenure seems to mean a lot to him. And I thought the opening montage, it was very effective. It felt like a real promo. And I think it would have even been better if Jericho was a babyface at this point. But that's neither here nor there. I really thought they did a good job with that opening video package.
Because they were doing things like that all throughout the night. Like little 30-second to a minute, before or after commercial breaks.
And
they would do them.
Right.
You go.
In the opening, it was just kind of the younger AEW talent. Then as the show went on, one thing that I thought gave it even more credibility was that you had not just AEW wrestlers congratulating him, but you had great talents from Japan. You had musicians. You had Shaquille O'Neal. You had people out of wrestling that had fame and celebrity to them. And I thought that really made Jericho look like a true superstar in and out of wrestling. It was very, very, very well done. Where Chris has such a great mind for the industry, I imagine he had a lot to do with that idea, and it worked like a charm. And I like Chris an awful lot. You may not know this prodigy, but Chris was guest on the program several times promoting his different books. We actually helped promote one of Chris's book signings here in Boston back in, I think, 2007. So there you go. There's our Chris Jericho history in Boston wrestling.
I thought those videos were good. Some of them were a little tacky, but I think they were effective nonetheless.
It seemed like a few people didn't know what they were supposed to say or what they were talking about. But other than that, it was very good.
It was effective. Some of them were a little, kind of cringy, but whatever. FTR defeated TH2 to retain their AEW tag titles. I thought it was kind of a sloppy match that went too long. AEW should stay away from long FTR matches week to week with the titles on the line. I think it could get boring very, very quick. I'm not a fan of TH2. They're athletic, but don't really look the part, of wrestlers, and are sloppy at times, and sometimes doesn't really look, realistic. They're the type of wrestlers where it looks kind of too choreographed, kind of like it's a sing and dance type of thing, where you're kind of just going through the spots, and, it looks very, they're Lucha Libre type of guys.
And look where they're coming from,
That's what I'm saying. Looks very Lucha Libre with all the spots and stuff like that. But what can you say? The number one contender's best friends came out after the match and told FTR their AEW tag title match is next Wednesday at the AEW Dynamite anniversary show. What do you think of FTR and all of these title matches that they're having?
Well, the notes were meticulous on this one, as you like for me to say. I actually forgot that Hybrid 2 even existed. They seemed to be putting a fairly important match for no reason. I guess they had won some matches on the AEW Dark show that I've missed every episode of. But you had the angry Young Bucks watching backstage. I had flashbacks to Shawn Michaels and Triple H in '97. In my notes, it said, I'm sure they're ready to super kick someone needlessly, and they wound up super kicking the cameraman that they said was spying on them, but they didn't have the money to pay the fine, which I didn't find fun and I didn't find funny, but it's one man's opinion. Back in the ring, you had flying, you had flipping. Even Jim Ross noted, why would one of Hybrid 2 do a move that took out his own partner? Even commentators using logic and common sense in 2020. I couldn't believe my ears. That's why Jim Ross has credibility, because the person at home would think the same thing. Why would a member of his team take out his partner to do a move? It's ridiculous. But anyway, I thought it was really good in some spots, and I thought it was really sloppy at times with Hybrid 2's offense. I thought you saw a little shades of power and glory for the win. And then after the match, just when you think you didn't have enough, more garbage came out with best friends. They said FTR were weenies, which made me have even less interest in seeing them and want to change the channel. And then all of a sudden, they were number one contenders getting a match next week. I think Trent Beretta is a solid talent. There is nothing about Chuck Taylor to me that says credible professional wrestler. Again, one man's opinion.
And we broke down Best Friends a little more in depth a couple weeks ago, and I said the same thing about Trent and Chucky T. But as I said in my notes as well, TH2. Sometimes it looks really good.
They need to go to TH1 with just. Oh no, that's a different team. I'm all over the place with these various tag teams that mean nothing.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of them. And just to inform you, Quincy Rustani is in the building.
Happy holidays.
Merry Christmas.
TH2, they'll do something and it looks very, very good. And then they do something else and you roll your eyes. I don't know. Their matches go all over the place.
Yeah.
Some things are great. Some things look awful. Some things don't make sense. And I thought the match was too long, but.
I see. If it's a good match, I don't mind a long match. FTR is a team that can go. They just weren't in there with what I would call a solid team.
Yeah, because that's the thing. You can have a good match that's 25 minutes, but then you can also have a bad match that's the same time.
There he is, Quincy Rustani. He's in the building. Looks like he's going to get some free water, it looks like. All right, we'll have to see if he pays us a visit in a little bit. All right, let's continue with AEW Dynamite.
The next match, Cody defeated Brody Lee in a dog collar match for the TNT title. I thought it was a good match. It was brutal. I mean, I don't think AEW's put something on like that ever. I mean, I can't think of anything off the top of my head. Arn Anderson got his spot in by hitting a spine buster on a member of the Dark Order. What I don't get is Cody goes out to do a show and comes back immediately to win the title back. Good thing he's an executive for the company.
Yeah, no kidding, right?
I said Lee should have had a longer reign with the title. It felt like he was a placeholder until Cody came back. So it really didn't make sense to me, because he really felt like a placeholder. A couple weeks ago, he loses the title. Cody goes off and does a TV show. Cody comes back and beats him in their first rematch.
With a bad hair dye. He had a little Larry Dunn going.
Yeah. I hated what they introduced him as. The Prince of Pro Wrestling, which I thought was so stupid.
They like their long introductions for the top guys.
And then they introduced the Doctor at ringside, which I thought was pretty good, for it to be a brutal match. I mean,
if he's there for every match, why only introduce him for one?
I guess
it's not like he was it's not like they had a special guest doctor at ringside. You know what I mean?
I mean, I think what they should do is just have him in the back, but then when they have matches like this, have him at ringside and introduce him. I think that would add a little more.
I actually think it's good they do have the doctor at ringside in case of an emergency. But again, that's one man's opinion.
Yeah. And then after the match, Cody cuts a generic babyface promo. Came off very cringy. I don't know if you'll have the same idea as me, but
I have notes.
And he says he will face Orange Cassidy next Wednesday for the TNT title. I'm going to say this again. AEW has way too many title matches. Every week there's at least 2 title matches, and next week they have 3 with the TNT title, the tag titles, and the world title. And I'm
beside yourself.
It's just I don't like title matches every single week.
I have no problem with that. I have as long as the titles aren't being traded like baseball cards, I have no problem with the title. The champions defending the titles.
The thing, if you're doing number 1 contenders matches and people are earning them, then Orange Cassidy coming out, giving him a thumbs up, and he gives him a thumbs up back. I mean, at least Lance Archer, he was supposed to face him already, and he's the number 1 contender, so he earned that, and so did Best Friends. But this, I really don't get. I don't like when Cody does this random, TNT title match every week.
I think he's trying to emulate what John Cena did in 2015, which was very successful in a great part of the program when he did the United States Open Challenge every week. I could be wrong, but that's what it feels like to me.
I'll tell you, there's a big difference between Johnny and Cody, but I don't know. What did you think? I'm sure you're going to have a lot to say on this, as I just broke it down for you, as DX would say.
I thought it was way too early in the feud for a gimmick match like this. Cody came out. Of course, Brandy had to be there to get her spot in, and Arn Anderson, as opposed to usually the half dozen or so members of the Nightmare family that usually come out. Brandy, I thought, was probably ready to take out a half dozen members of the Dark Order like she did last week in one of the worst segments they've had in quite a while. But still, I was looking forward to this match. I thought having Greg the Hammer Valentine there sitting in the middle of nowhere watching, I thought that was kind of interesting, even though it was kind of funny at the same time. I don't like the managers standing on that entranceway where they're level with the ring, and a few times Arn Anderson was there in the middle of the match. For some reason, I just don't think it belongs, but I really enjoyed the match. It was very physical. You had double juice. It almost made me forget a lot about 2020 wrestling. I think they overdid it when you had the spot when they tossed the chair at Arn Anderson, having some forgettable member of the Dark Order run in, and then Double A give a spine buster, and then just when you think that should have been enough, he took a lousy-looking bump for Brody Lee, who in reality should have looked like he was killing a guy in his mid-60s. As good of a TV wrestling match as you're going to see, I think they should have saved it for the pay-per-view. It was superb. Two guys that went out and gave it 110%, but then you have to overdo it. The Dark Order and the Nightmare Family came out. One of the better AEW TV matches I've seen since its inception. Excellent, passionate promo afterwards with Cody Rhodes and Tony Schiavone. You felt like he was speaking from his heart. That was AEW at its best. I have no idea how that couldn't have been the main event of the show. And then they ruined it. Oh, go ahead.
Well, they put it on when the debate was starting.
Oh, see, I didn't time it up. So that makes sense.
The debate started at 9.
Okay, so that makes sense then. You know what?
And they started
you corrected
a few
me.
minutes. Yeah, they started it a few minutes before the debate, so people didn't click over the channel.
Well, that was a good idea then. Hopefully no one saw the main event on either show as a result of the debate.
Yeah. But the promo I wasn't really as high on. I
love the promo. But then they ruined it by having that idiot Orange Cassidy come up to set up a match between the two next week. And as my note says, how could you turn 24-karat gold into dog shit so quick? That was my thought on the end of the promo. And I know Quincy's getting a little itchy over there. Now, Quincy, we do want to mention, since you are here, we are lining up quite a plethora of talent and nights of extravaganzas as part of the 9th annual Paul Bearer Holiday Headlocks Toy Drive, which you've been a big part of over the years, Quincy.
Is it really going to happen, or is it going to get ruined by troublemakers? I don't want to say their names.
You're referring to the Chastains?
Yeah. Seems to me we tried to do something nice about 3 or 4 times in a row, and they got ruined.
Well, the Chastains, they did put a damper on some of our efforts, but this year it's going to be big, Quincy. It's going to be bigger than ever. Unfortunately, we're not going to be able to have a live wrestling event because of coronavirus, but what we're going to do here in the studio, not just over the span of several weeks, it's going to be spectacular, Quincy. You're one of the goodwill ambassadors of Boston Wrestling and the MWF. And a few short words, what does the Paul Bearer Holiday Headlocks Toy Drive mean to you?
Well, in the old school days before it happened, I guess it means like family, friendship, and the world of wrestling, the way it was meant to be. Like I said, we had 3 events, but I pulled some strings to line it up. And
you did.
Straighten it out. So it sounds like they're going to go back together again.
Yeah, well, you have a lot.
But the thing is, though, you said yourself, though, this thing here with the coronavirus, well, what good is it if we can't have big capacity?
Well, that's why God created the internet. We're going to be able to have a lot of fun, not just with fans here in the Boston area, but fans from all over the world.
Well, how exactly are we going to do this?
We can't share all our secrets right now, Quincy. It's only October 7th.
All right. Well,
I know.
Or October 8th.
If there's a game plan of some kind that we can make this thing work, then that's fine. We'll do it. But
well, I spoke to MWF President Dr. David Reese. He said Quincy has done such a phenomenal job in the past trying to help the toy drive. And for fans that may not know, Quincy is actually our good friend Al Snow's best friend. Not like that tag team in AEW, real life best friends.
Well, I don't want to get into enemies.
No.
Now is just not the time.
No.
I'm sure that Al and I are equally angry and disappointed that.
Well, Al's happy this year. We're going to have a great toy drive.
Well, I sure hope so.
And David Reese said, Quincy, if you help as much as you usually do, On December 26th, the day after Christmas, you're going to earn yourself a little fellatio.
Well, all right. Right now, I guess it's like I said. All I can do is wish the world of NWF and their families and all the fans happy holidays.
Yes.
But if there's a game plan, I
We
hope
got a
it
great
works.
game plan. We can't share it yet.
No, we won't share it right now.
Because you never know who's listening.
But
You never know who's listening.
No.
Yeah.
But for starters, let's have Al Snow in the world of NWF right about now. It's dinner time.
Dinner time.
Get yourself some coffee.
Yeah.
Say a grace for me on the human side, because we just make this whole thing look
Would
easy.
you like to say grace for the fans?
Okay, here's a grace, because he's the only one that can make it work. So
Al Snow or
a
God?
grace, to help Al Snow.
All right.
Most of us knows what it means.
Yeah. But not all of us.
No, but right now, I think Al Snow. Where's he right now?
Al Snow right now is in Nice, France.
Jesus, that's a far off
Heck
drive.
of a ride, yeah.
How far is that from here?
It's quite a plane ride, Quincy. Either that or even longer of a boat ride, but
Or swim.
or
Well,
swim.
Well, it's my guess. It sounds like 3 or 4 hours up on a plane.
Much longer than that.
A little bit longer.
Longer.
Almost as
little
long
bit.
as your winter coat.
Well, then let's put out.
He did say, though, it might have been easier if he went to the beach, put your coat down in the water, and just walked over to France.
Well, then Al Snow deserves extra credit.
Yes, he should.
I hope that the kids, they're just walking into this whole thing for the first time, know what Al Snow is actually doing for them.
Yeah.
They don't know how lucky they have
They don't know how lucky they have it.
to have Al Snow.
We have no idea if Al's even going to be with us, but he's there in spirit.
What do you mean if he's not going to be there?
Well, we're not sure if he's going to be here live at the studio.
Well, maybe we can get a picture of Al and we can
get
talk
we'll
through.
get a picture of him and put it on the set.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But Al Snow knows that we're always thinking of him. And,
Yes.
But right now, I guess it's
And
that
even
time.
Al said, you deserved a little fellatio.
Right now, I think it's dinner time for the world of NWF.
All right.
Get some coffee.
Yep.
Say hi to your families. Stay healthy.
Yep.
Uh,
All right, Quincy, we're going to get back to the podcast, and you and I can go on our little field trip. It's always fun to have you with us. If you want to stick around, you're more than welcome. But as we continue with the show up next, it was a little ladies' action prodigy.
Big Swole defeated Serena Deeb. What did you think of this match? I didn't really have much notes on it. I thought it was an okay women's match, but nothing great.
3 short words, solid ladies match. Nothing bad to say about it. I didn't think it was anything exceptional, but it was fine for what it was.
That's what I thought. I thought it was actually pretty decent. It wasn't great, but it was solid, as you said. Then we move on to the big main event.
Well, before we get to the main event, I'd also like to note, because, again, I was told by someone I respect, my notes weren't meticulous enough. I was missing things. I got to pay better attention. So out of respect to the veterans, I was a good boy. I thought the John Moxley promo when he was in some bar in the desert, I thought that was really good. It made me more interested in the match he has coming up. I thought it was very effective. I thought he came off as cool, having a shot, walking out of the bar like that. I thought it was interesting, as opposed to Adam Page just walking around drinking like a fool. I thought the John Moxley promo was very good, very well done.
Well, I didn't have it noted down. It was pretty quick, but might have been my fast forward. But
and then there's that.
Yeah. We can move on to the main event now if you're ready.
Ugh.
Chris Jericho and Jake Hager defeated Luther and Serpentico. I said it was a great way to celebrate your 30th year in the business. One thing that I hated from this match
Everything
was
that had happened.
This in particular, when Luther did that dive to everyone on the outside, and everybody was waiting for him and looking up at him while he was struggling to get to the top rope.
Just waiting.
And the camera shot showed everybody just standing there, locking arms, waiting for him. And it's like, I hate that stuff in professional wrestling, at least when WWE has someone go to the top rope and people are waiting, they do a camera angle of just them going to the top.
And they're athletic in the attempt to do it.
Yeah, at least. But I think Luther he's not that good at wrestling. I don't know how long he's been in the game, but his character is just stupid. I don't know. I really don't get it. Serpentico is another one on this roster that looks like a little kid. What did you think about this match before we move into the post-match stuff, which I'll get into after you break down?
Totally a garbage main event. Mero and Kip Saban playing an arcade game at ringside, making two great athletes who should be turning into money characters look like idiots. I can't believe Jericho and Swagger even sold for these two. I mean, they were pathetic. Luther couldn't get up to the top rope for the same boring, overdone spot on every wrestling show every week where the guy jumps on a half dozen supposedly clueless wrestlers that aren't expecting him to jump off the top rope on them as they look up in awe. It took Luther I probably could have got up the top rope quicker, and you know the speed that I move. What a complete and utter embarrassment for Jericho to even be involved in this garbage. I thought this made Undertaker and Goldberg look like Undertaker and Shawn Michaels from WrestleMania 25. It was one of the worst matches they've had on AEW TV. Jericho, and I understand Jericho wanting to sell for his friend, that's fine. But for Jack Swagger to sell for the little guy in the mask, I mean, that's just an embarrassment. An embarrassment.
And then after the match, the show ended with MJF coming out to celebrate with the Inner Circle again and gave Chris Jericho a gift. The gift was a picture of himself framed. MJF says he'll make a career-defining announcement next week. Chris Jericho then smashed the picture over the clown's head and gave him the Judas effect. The clown was under some type of tarp or blanket, and I don't know if it was supposed to be Chris Jericho as a clown or what it was.
It was a waste of time is what it was, but
I just think it was a weird ending to the night.
That's one way to put it.
And it felt off ending it on that note. It was just MJF came out and gave him it just looked stupid, you know? It seemed like something that should be just in the middle of the show and moved on from. It
shouldn't have been on at all. It was just awful. Well, the whole thing was awful.
But you could say that about how many things in pro wrestling today.
But no. This particular night, the ending of it was just awful.
The ending really messed up for what it was, a decent AEW. I mean, we can get into grades in a little bit, but I mean, overall, you had Cage and Hobbs first, which was good. FTR and TH2 was good for what it was. Cody and Brody Lee was very good. Swole and Deep, as we said, was a solid women's match. And this main event just imploded the show from having a pretty good flow. And I really didn't like it, but what are you going to do?
What's the grade, kid? What's the grade?
I was just about to move into
I'm sorry. I apologize. I have to get Quincy back in.
My grade was 6 out of 10.
6 out of 10.
That was obviously after the main event. But before the main event, it was higher. What did you have as a grade for AEW?
I had almost no idea how to grade it. Some of it was awful, not even belonging on an independent, it was so bad. Then on the flip side, you had Cody's match was tremendous. I really liked you had real-life celebrities putting Jericho over, which was a really nice touch. During the show, I went anywhere from 6 to 8, but in the end, just like you, I went with a 6. You're learning, kid.
It was a solid show, and then as we move over to NXT, I know you want to take a break.
We do, please. I need to have a sip of the water. I need
The reason why I said this is because you always forget the news and notes part of it.
Oh, all right, well, please don't let me. What are the big news and notes?
That's why I wanted to add in before we move to NXT. There's just one note I have here: Wardlow, Colt Cabana, and Hangman Adam Page were announced for the AEW World Title #1 Contenders Tournament.
Oh, shit. It's on, baby.
It's on, baby. Now we can take the break.
All right, wrestling fans, right now, our good friend Slick Rick, Maria, Tina, Trigger Trey, All of our Kevins. We got a lot of Kevins that join us. I almost feel like I'm watching Home Alone. I see Kevin pop up on the screen so much. All of our great super fans that tune in on Thursday night after we party with Marty on Wrestling Insiders at 9 p.m. If you missed tonight's show, it is kind of a emotional episode of Wrestling Insiders. It's a little bit of different side of Marty. As opposed to the usual no-holds-barred sex, drugs, and rock and roll look at pro wrestling. On this week's Marty Jannetty episode that aired at 9 o'clock and is available now on the YouTube channel, he discusses the debut of the Blue Blazer in WWF in 1988, which, of course, was Owen Hart, and that turns into a very deep discussion of the passing of Marty's good friend, Owen Hart, in 1999. That's available now. Hopefully you'll get a chance to check it out after this episode. Right now, all of our friends, get yourself a quick drink. For me, you know what I really need, Kit?
Monster?
I got to go over and get a shot of that Boost Oxygen. I know it's available
that
at
helps as well.
Fine retailers everywhere, as well as boostoxygen.com. My can is almost empty, hint, hint. Let me get a hit. I'm going to be breathing better, feeling fine. We'll be back after this brief timeout. Wrestling fans, welcome back to Wrestling Insiders Current Events. Dan Mirade, Matt Degnan. We're talking AEW Dynamite. We're talking WWE NXT from October the 7th, 2020. It was a big night. Cecil the Lion, myself, and a stand-up comic saw Friday the 13th. Kamala Harris and Mike Pence went head-to-head with the Fly that did a run-in. And we also had some wrestling to talk about. And there was some really good wrestling, and there was some really shit wrestling. And now we're going to talk about WWE NXT Live. Oh, no, not from Full Sail University. Oh, no, not from the WWE Performance Center. The Capitol Wrestling Center. A nice nod to history. I love history. I kind of am getting used to the name. Prodigy, take it away, baby.
I don't really like it.
No, all right, well.
It doesn't make sense, but what are you going to do? What was interesting is NXT, I thought, was worse than AEW, but there was more coming out of it, if that makes sense.
All right. Well, there was a lot to break down. I have a lot.
Yeah.
I didn't realize how many NXT notes I had.
That's what I'm saying. I have more NXT notes than I do AEW.
Well, Quincy's itching to go to Shaw's, brother, so let's get rolling.
We got it. Kushida and Tommaso Ciampa ended in a DQ after Velveteen Dream did the run-in and had a little brawl with Kushida. I'm interested to see where Kushida goes from here. They've been kind of giving him probably the biggest push he's gotten and being in WWE over a year. So I'm interested in see what the end game is for him. I understand Dream going after Kushida because it was revenge from NXT TakeOver when Kushida attacked him after the match. So at least, you know, this disqualification, this attack actually made sense, and it really just didn't come out of nowhere like they usually do in the past. A note I had about that wasn't really match related, kind of. I don't like Kushida's Kimura armbar being called the hoverboard lock. I know they're trying to do some Marty McFly type of gimmick with him, with the boots and the jeans and the goggles he wears and the music and stuff like that. But I don't like it being called the hoverboard lock. I think it's so stupid. But I thought it was a good match up until the run-in. What did you think about this opener?
Before the match even began, Beth Phoenix's commentary made me want to change the channel to AEW. There was supposedly a locker room brawl between the two earlier in the night, and I'll say this, I was glad that for once there weren't cameras there to tape it. It made it almost feel realistic. Two guys got into a fight. There just didn't happen to be cameras there to record the whole thing. I thought it was a really good match until Velveteen Dream ran in, jumping off the top rope and nailing Tommaso. It was a fine TV match. I would have loved to have seen a longer singles match between these two on a takeover or on a future episode of NXT. Maybe Tommaso is going to be paired off with Velveteen Dream, which certainly is going to be a waste of Tommaso, but it looks like Velveteen is going to have issues with both men. And Velveteen is a man that likes to have issues with men.
Younger ones, though. Younger ones.
All right.
Then the next segment, Ember Moon cuts it's just a boring promo. It almost seemed like she was forgetting her lines throughout the whole segment, she was pausing and doing this weird laugh like she was trying to remember what she was supposed to say. She talked about her comeback to NXT. She says she wants the gold, and out comes the NXT Women's Champion, Io Shirai. Then Rhea Ripley comes out to say about a handful of words, only to be attacked by Raquel Gonzalez and Dakota Kai. And get Teddy Long out here. We got a tag match in the main event between Ember Moon and Rhea Ripley versus Raquel Gonzalez and Dakota Kai. What did you think about this segment?
Well,
it seemed kind of rushed.
It was maybe a good thing for Ember to be back in NXT after a very uneventful 2 years on the main roster. She said she'd been gone for 14 months. I didn't even realize it was that long, which is how much she meant to her main roster appearances. I don't even remember which brand she was on. I think she debuted on Raw. I thought it was a lousy promo. I thought it was ineffective. A minute into it, you have Io Shirai comes out, who certainly is not a promo herself. Then you have Beth Phoenix making it worse. So what trailblazers and groundbreakers they are. I wanted to say, shut the up. And I'm not going to say the word because we have lovely ladies like Tina and Maria Davis watching. But, I mean, that's why the commentators have such little credibility. Anyone that's watched the show for more than a month knows that that's complete and utter bullshit, calling these two trailblazers and groundbreakers. What trail did they blaze? What ground did these two break? Then you have a bunch of women come out. One of them looked like Matt Riddle. But in the end, at least you had the general manager, William Regal, book the match, as opposed to how you usually see in WWE. They just say, you know what? I want to fight you now. And then all of a sudden, a referee comes out of nowhere and the bell rings. I hate that. At least this had a touch of common sense to it, as much as I didn't like the rest of the segment. But I'll tell you this, it would wind up being leaps and bounds better than the garbage that was on AEW that we already spoke of.
Well, the only groundbreaker in the women's division is Nia Jax.
Yeah,
but
it's a different kind of groundbreaking. Little John Tenter action.
Yeah, sure. Right. Then the next match, Drake Maverick and Killian Dane defeated Everrise. Maverick and Dane don't do anything for me. I think it's a sad attempt at some kind of comedy or whatever they're trying to do. Dane should be portrayed as a badass monster and not paired with a midget goof like Drake. After the match, Killian punched Maverick in the face and then carried him to the back for some reason. I don't know what they're trying to do with this team. Drake Maverick should just be relegated to the cruiserweights or even off TV for that matter. But cruiserweights at least. Killian Dane should not be messing with any of this bullshit. It puts him almost in the same place as Otis with this comedy bullshit.
Yeah.
You know, you got these big, you got to utilize these big guys. How many big guys do you see in pro wrestling anymore like you used to? You don't have that many anymore. You might as well utilize the ones you have and not pair him with with the smallest guy on the roster and have them face who? Everrise? Who? I never know who they are. And then they hit their music and I go, who is this? And then they go Everrise. And I go, it's these guys who always lose matches. But I don't know what they're trying to do with these two other than lackluster attempt at comedy. What did you think about this, even though I already know?
You had the lousy skit earlier in the show with Drake Maverick walking in. You have a guy with no credibility going from being a wrestler to a general manager to an actual manager to doing both at the same time, to being released, to fighting for his job in a tournament, to saving his job, to going back to doing nothing anyone has any interest in. I'll say this, as a human being, we have mutual friends. He's a very hardworking guy and has a great passion for the business. As far as how he's portrayed on television, I've had zero interest his entire existence. They're going to go with the odd couple type tag team with Dane and Drake, which is stupid and uninteresting to me. I thought it was a good finish where you had Dane powerbomb Maverick onto whichever one of Everrise that was. I think Everrise, poor Everrise could use a little Viagra or a little boost of oxygen. There was too much sports entertainment here. Too much sports entertainment. And it carried over to the next vignette they did with the Gargano family getting a new TV set. That also was a little too much sports entertainment for Dan Mirade.
I had that.
Oh, you actually had a note about that. Usually you skip them.
I did, but I was going to recap it when they did the reveal of what was in the TV.
I apologize.
So, but what are you going to do?
I apologize.
I'll move on to Toni Storm. A little promo video plays regarding her comeback and chasing the NXT Women's title.
Well done.
She says she'll be better, and it's nothing like we've seen before from her. I think she's one of the better women's wrestlers that they have. Getting her over from wherever she's from.
Wherever she's from. Someplace.
One of those places over there. She says she's been training or
maybe that's where Glantz has been. He's in Toni Storm's in Glantzville.
Yeah. And she's been training in Cancun, Mexico, or whatever she's doing there, swimming.
That's good. Maybe she's with Jesse Ventura down there. Who knows?
Yeah. But what did you think of this video? And what do you think of Toni Storm overall?
Short, sweet, to the point. Did its job. Not too much Toni. As far as when she comes back, my eyes aren't exactly excited about it. But you know what? I'll give her a chance. I'll see her new attitude, whatever it is she's going to be presenting. I like to be open-minded, even if I don't like it. So we'll see.
Which Toni do you think draws more?
The Hall of Famer, Mr. USA, Tony Atlas.
Oh, okay. The next match, Austin Theory defeated newly signed Leon Ruff.
Big one.
I think, speaking of not that big, I think Ruff definitely needs to add some muscle. He looks like a flamingo with arms, but whatever. Theory cuts a promo after the match that is interrupted by a returning Dexter Loomis. Loomis then beats Theory. I don't know what you think of him, but I'm a fan of Loomis. He's one of the few people in WWE that I like to see. I think he has a good look. I don't know. I just like his character for some reason. Sometimes there's people that, other people might not like, but you end up liking. I don't know what it is, but I like him.
Well, good.
Well, Cameron Grimes attacks Dexter Loomis after the match because Loomis didn't answer a question asked by Grimes last week. What did you think of this? This was one segment that was just kind of all over the place. You had Austin Theory beating Ruff, and then you had Theory versus Loomis where he beat him, and then you have Grimes come out. It was just kind of bang, 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 bang.
There's a lot going on.
Yeah. What did you think of it?
Well, Austin Theory, they should have never brought him to the main roster to begin with. He was there a couple of months. He was put into not one but two stables before running into his social media issues, then sent back to NXT. Theory, he sold way too much for Leon Ruff. It was a rough night for Leon, but at least it was quick. The promo after the match, I thought it was very good. He said he was the future of NXT. There was nothing anyone could do about it. And then you cue Dexter Loomis. The match made on the spot by a wrestler, not a general manager, which I just mentioned about William Regal. I hate that. I don't know why they couldn't have done it in a way where these two had their little confrontation. I want a match with you. Then later in the show, it's signed for next week, not on the spot. That's one thing that always irritates me about wrestling in general in 2020. I was very surprised to see Theory do the job. I think he is someone that should be groomed as a long-term main event project, a WrestleMania main event project. That's how much potential I think Theory has in the king of sports professional wrestling. And the Cameron Grimes attacking Loomis after the match, it just felt like it was a little too much. As far as Loomis goes, I think he's come leaps and bounds since his TNA days as Samuel Shaw. And I will say, on the commentating side, I think that Wade Barrett did a really good job in getting Austin Theory over.
Theory, I mean, even he beat by Kushida a couple weeks ago, like
doing jobs.
Less than 5 minutes.
Doing jobs.
Yeah, even when he was on the main roster earlier this year,
he did a lot of jobs.
He was losing a lot there.
He should be groomed.
I'll second that. Is where he shouldn't have been called up to the main roster, especially having a tag team match at WrestleMania that really meant nothing.
Nobody really cared.
Nobody cared, but I mean, I guess he could say that he wrestled at WrestleMania, but whatever. I don't know. I didn't expect Loomis to come out, and then Grimes, and then I bet we're going to get Grimes and Loomis next week, which I really don't like Grimes, but Loomis I'm a bigger fan of.
Not like our good friend Crystal Grimes in New Hampshire. Crystal, if you're listening, hello.
How are you? The next segment, there was a recap of the Finn Balor and Kyle O'Reilly feud. Balor's broken jaw is highlighted at the end of the video. The injury he suffered in the NXT title main event at TakeOver. What'd you think of this little recap video?
I thought the video package on Finn and O'Reilly was great. I loved the match. I thought it was the match of the night at TakeOver. If you haven't seen TakeOver yet, check it out on WWE Network, and check out the watch-along with myself, the Prodigy Matt Degnan, and Dave Carter. We watched NXT, obviously. We watched along with it, and you get a little double-screen action going on. No, it was a nice recap of a match with two fine athletes. Hopefully we'll see a rematch between the two when they're healthy.
Then the next match, which I believe this is probably the biggest news coming out of NXT.
Do I have notes? But keep going, brother.
NXT for last night. Rich Holland defeated Danny Birch. The main storyline in this segment is Holland's injury to his leg after it was caught under him when he caught Birch's tag team partner Oney Lorcan off of a suicide dive in a post-match brawl. His leg seemed to have snapped under him when he caught Lorcan coming through the ropes. Holland was then stretchered off with an air cast on his leg, which usually signals that he broke it. His ankle was completely turned to the side. If you go back and watch it, if you can, his ankle was just snapped. And then Lorcan went to go give him a few punches, and Holland just couldn't even do anything. He was still holding his leg. The referees threw up the X. They took him out. And Holland was someone that they obviously had something, going on with him after him attacking Adam Cole at TakeOver. He's been having some enhancement type matches the past couple weeks. So, I mean, they had a plan for him, and now it's kind of all thrown out the window, and he's going to be out for months now. What did you think of this?
I think a lot of it, none of it is good. He saw Ridge Holland, again, the big climax to NXT TakeOver is him dumping Adam Cole at ringside, supposedly after breaking his ribs and beating him. So he comes out and works, I would call Danny Birch maybe a lower mid-card guy, to be generous. Sold way too much for him after taking out and breaking the ribs of one of the top guys in AEW. Then after he beats him, he goes at him again, and he gets a little bit more offense in on Holland. I couldn't believe that. Then Holland lays him out, fine. I thought it was going to end. Oney Lorcan comes out, and then he attacks Holland. Holland left him laying, but no, he should have crushed both of them. Oney gets up. He flew onto him a second time where he injured his ankle. And here you have this main event project being taken out on a stretcher, likely injured and out for a while, needlessly because it was bad booking for him to be selling for an undercard guy at all. Never mind one, two of them. I'd be furious at whoever put this match together, whether it be a writer, the agent, or the wrestlers themselves. Why he would be selling for two undercard guys when he's being pushed in a main event program, it makes no sense. It defies logic. It's just bad booking. He should have crushed both of them and left them laying. End of discussion.
When I heard that he got injured and I saw it, because I was watching the debate, because I usually watch it the day after unless there's nothing on. I said, okay, he, just caught someone through the air and, it was during a match or whatever. But then when I went back and I watched it, I go, wait, this isn't even his opponent that he's fighting. It's an after the match type of brawl. And I'm watching the match and I'm like, where's he about to break his ankle? And then he pins him and I go, well, his ankle looks fine. And then after the match, his tag team partner comes out. He dives on him the first time, and I go, he didn't hurt himself there. Then he does it again, and I go, this is way too much. And then he hurts his ankle on the second one, as you said. It's just way too much going on for a guy you think is a main event type of guy, the way they're portraying him. Just way too much going on. You didn't need the tag team partner coming out. You didn't need all the chicanery and the bullshit going on. And look what happened, and it bit them in the ass.
Just bad.
It bit them in the ass.
And it made me angry.
As we digress.
All right, keep going, brother. On to the
next segment. The next segment. NXT is teasing a pairing between the Garganos, however you want to say it, and Indy Hartwell after Hartwell gave them a TV with highlights of her helping out Candice LeRae in the Battle Royal a few weeks ago.
That was a big one.
What do you think of this? I think
they look random. Honestly, they look like two idiots. It's too much sports entertainment for my liking on a show that they should try and do away from the sports entertainment. I wish there was one show where they could just try and make it a wrestling show.
And then they're watching the highlights on their TV with a blue light right in their face.
With the cameraman. The cameraman just happened to be there, too.
Yeah. Oh, very dumb. Then the next little promotional video played, Timothy Thatcher was training and beating up some random guy in a dark room with a ring. I mean, there's one spotlight in there on the ring, and he was just going over these submission moves.
Thought he was Stu Hart.
Well, he thought he was somebody. Yeah. I it really didn't make sense to me, but I wish there was more dialogue in it than him just putting submissions in on this random guy in a dark room.
Well, I really thought it was great. You know, it put over that he's a submission-type wrestler. He stretched the guy really bad. I like the fact that he isn't the typical model-looking wrestler. You know, he's got his teeth were all banged up, and he's kind of balding on the top. And you know, he was really angry. He was intense, and it made me kind of interested to see more of what he does. So I think that's an effective promo.
I get what they were trying to do. I just didn't think there was too much dialogue behind it, but whatever. Shotzi Blackheart defeated Xia Li. Same thing as the women's match for AEW. They both had a women's match to kind of before the main event. Whatever. I just thought about that. What did you think of this match? I really don't like Shotzi Blackheart. Xia Li is all right, but Blackheart is one of the people that's highly, highly overrated, and I really don't like her. I don't know what you think of her, but I'm not really a big fan.
I thought it was strange that almost the last probably half hour or so of the show, it was all women's wrestling.
Damn it. I had that as a note in the main event one.
Oh, well, I'm sorry. I beat you to the punch, brother. Well, that's why it just shows we never go over the show beforehand.
We don't go over the spots. But
no, we're not like the Fly.
Yeah, I had in my notes for the main event, I'll say it now since we're on the subject, the woman took up, I didn't really map it out or whatever, I just did it based off the top of my head, about 40% of the screen time for this whole show.
Too much.
Way too much. And I think that's why my grade was a little too low. There was way too much women stuff going on.
I'll say this. I disagree with you about Blackheart. Maybe not in NXT, but I can see her getting over as a ridiculous, goofy type character in WWE. She has a different look. I think it's ridiculous that she rides out on that little child's tank. But, I think she's someone the fans maybe could have some fun with. The Japanese women, I know it's going to sound wrong, but it's tough because look at what they've had to do with Asuka. I think she's by far the best female wrestler in wrestling. And because of her promo ability, they have her go out there and scream like an idiot and take away from her athletic ability. And I think when Io Shirai tried to speak in one of the promos where they randomly had a camera on her in the back, it was the same thing. I know Vince Russo got a lot of heat saying something similar to that 20 or so years ago, but I don't necessarily think he's wrong. I think maybe he worded it wrong. It's just it's tough for fans to resonate with someone if they can't understand what they're saying.
Yeah, I mean, that goes back to the point I said before about Loomis, is some fans like certain characters, some people don't. That's the good thing about pro wrestling. A lot of people have different opinions, but I'm sure we're going to have the same opinion about this main event.
Well, what about, we forgot about Boa?
You can talk about it.
I have one sentence. It looks like a big Japanese mystery going on when Boa came out to give Lee some kind of a letter as they walked off together. So we'll have to find out what the letter is. I just really didn't understand it and what they were trying to do. It was a mystery. It was a mystery. Are they trying to build some Chinese or Asian faction? Well, they're Japanese, not Chinese, but, close enough, I guess. No, I think Xia Li is Chinese. Oh, is she? Oh, I didn't know that. You educated me. Yeah, because I remember reading something that she was the first Chinese women's wrestler, something like that. No, she should be very Chinese. Proud of herself. She is Chinese, so there you go. The main event, Rhea Ripley and Ember Moon defeated Dakota Kai and Raquel Gonzalez. As I said before, the woman on NXT took a
lot of time up, which I thought took away from the show. And another note I had, Moon looked really out of shape.
Yes, she did. She looked like she. I know you can't say anything about a woman's look, even though this is an athletic presentation, but it did look like she had put on some weight from the last time she was on TV.
And I didn't notice it on Sunday or in her promo, but when she was wrestling, I was like, wow. And I had to look up pictures of the last time she wrestled. And if you go back and watch her old matches, she looks a lot bigger. You can even see it when she was wrestling. She put on some LBs. And what I said to myself was, when I was watching it, did she even work out before she came back?
She had a little dreamy Mimi going on.
It looks like she got injured, sat out for a while, and came back.
Yeah.
It looks like she didn't even train or anything like that before. It looks like she just injured, sat out, came back, and that was it. She didn't do anything.
No.
What'd you think of the main event?
The match itself, I mean, to be honest, there was some good action at times. It was sloppy at other times, but compared to what was on AEW, it looked like the British Bulldogs and the Hart Foundation from 1986. Ember Moon hit the Eclipse for the win, and off the air we go.
What was your grade for NXT?
Oh, man, I tell you, it was another show that was kind of tough to grade. There were a couple of things I really liked. I hated the placement of some of the matches. It looks like the injury bug has really hit the brand. The things that sucked, you have that inexcusable injury to Ridge Holland. Injuries are always going to happen, but why put a guy that's being groomed for a main event spot in this ridiculous match? Piss poor booking, and he's going to be injured as a result of it, hopefully not for too long. But I say this just as someone that's a WWE stockholder, it makes you angry. So with the good, with the bad overall, I give it a very reluctant 5. Almost a 4, but I gave it a 5. So AEW was narrowly just a little better this week, in my opinion.
I had the same idea. I gave it a 4. I think I could have given it a 5 if the women weren't really as predominant on the show. But what are you going to do?
And I'm going to prove my point, when I say it was a very reluctant 5, I put very in all capital letters. So that's a very reluctant 5.
You mean business, brother.
That's right.
We'll get into the last little segment of the show where you guess the viewership for the Wednesday night rules.
Oh, man, the viewership this week?
First guess AEW.
750.
753.
Wow. See, sometimes I'm good when it comes to those ratings. And for
now NXT,
690.
639.
Well, really, I thought NXT would be up a bit because it was coming off of TakeOver.
They get beat every single week by over 100,000 viewers every time. You had MLB playoffs last night. You had the big debate, and the debate did over 50 million. So the debate did a big draw.
Wow, Kamala and Mike Pence outdrew Hogan and Andre on the main event in February of 1988. It was a big night for them.
But
who would have ever thought Kamala would have outdrawn Hogan and Andre?
Yeah. But
that's going to be over the head of just about everybody listening, but that's all right.
Yeah. As we both said, AEW is better than NXT this week, and they won the viewership. So this week, I guess you could tally a win in the column for AEW, as these fans love to do.
Well, and as always, wrestling fans, we'd love to know what you think of the shows. Give us the numbers. What did you think of NXT on a scale of 1 to 10? What did you think of AEW on a scale of 1 to 10? If you're watching the premiere live, where we have so much fun chatting away, you can type it in. Or if you're watching after the fact on YouTube, put it in the comment section below. We'd love to see what you think about what's going on in the world of professional wrestling. Sometimes we agree, sometimes we disagree, but in the end, we're all entitled to our own opinion, as long as we can be reasonably respectful about it.
Reasonably.
I try. Depends on the day, though. Linda says I'm ready for a break. I couldn't remember what month it was today, so I think the tiredness is starting to wear on. Yeah. We've been producing a lot of great content, though. September, we told you, was that great record-breaking month where the numbers just literally, my jaw was in worse shape than Finn Balor after TakeOver. I was so shocked. My jaw dropped so heavily. But we are human beings at the end of the day, not robots.
Not at the beginning?
No, I was in worse shape than Wim this morning when I couldn't remember what month it was. So that should give you an indication of how much of boost oxygen I need. I needed an infusion of Monster. I needed it stuck into my vein.
You needed an IV of Monster.
An IV of Monster or Red Bull or something, brother. But you know what? I keep on ticking. And now after this great program, I get to enjoy a trip to Shaw's with Quincy Rustani. Does life get any better than that?
Very rewarding.
Yes, that's one way I'd put it. Very rewarding. When I look back at the Thursdays in my life as I get older, the trips to Shaw's with Quincy Rustani is he screams 6'3" Louie when he bags the groceries and then recites different movie lines as we leave.
Why?
So I have no idea why. You've met him.
Yeah, I don't know.
At least he doesn't have the winter coat.
No, well, you'll be seeing it very soon as the weather starts to get a little colder.
We're still barely fit into your SUV. We almost needed to tie it to the roof, but that's a different story for a different time. All right, any news and notes before we go, Mr. Degnan?
Coming out of NXT, the only thing we covered Finn Balor's injury. We covered Ridge's injury. I don't think there's anything else coming out of that show as far as announcements go.
Well, it looks like we covered it, folks. Another big night, another big Thursday. Thursday and Tuesdays, they're turning into doubleheader nights because we have the recap shows. Again, if you missed Wrestling Insiders Party with Marty at 9 o'clock tonight, the episode where we discussed the Blue Blazer debuting in WWF in the summer of 1988, right around the same time that the Rockers did. It's a very interesting episode. It's not the typical, as I noted, Marty Jannetty, the no-holds-barred sex, drugs, and rock and roll type episode, especially like what we had last week with the 1990 Plane Ride from Hell. This one, Marty gets very emotional when he talks about Owen's passing. So it's kind of a different episode. It's kind of a deep episode, but I thought it was a very good episode. One man's opinion.
Well, I can't wait.
All right.
See what he has.
You might have to even put the socks on.
Well, it's a little bit different episode tonight, as you said, but we'll see. Oh, wait, well, technically it's after the fact, but whatever.
All right, wrestling fans, that just about wraps it up. We will be back tomorrow night, 10 o'clock, after everything wraps up at the Thunderdome in Orlando, Florida. We're going to be talking with a man that has a dome of a different kind. John Cena Sr. is back for another Fabulous Friday, where he discusses the first year of AEW. What does the former Monday Night Raw main eventer think of All Elite Wrestling's first year? It might surprise you. I thought that's a very interesting episode, too. So for all you great fans out there, remember the Super Chat's open. We got eBay. We got Patreon rocking and rolling, where you get early, ad-free access to all of the crazy stuff we're doing here. Until we speak again, folks, for the prodigy Matt Degnan, I'm Dan Mirade. You and yours, be well, stay healthy. Good night.